Longowal Institute of Engineering and Technology, Punjab. She has published many research papers in reputed international journals and conferences with Scopus and SCI indexing. She is an active member of international societies like IEEE, IAENG, etc., and also a part of committee for many international conferences and seminars. Her research area includes networking, cloud computing, information security. So I welcome you, ma'am. Thank you for coming. I also extend my warm welcome to Dr. S. Santhara Rajan. Sir has been working as a professor and mentor from last 14 years in engineering colleges and university. He is presently working as a senior assistant for professor in School of Computing Science and Engineering at Vellore Institute of Technology, Bhopal. Sir is the program chair of BTech CSE, especially in artificial intelligence and machine learning of MTech Artificial Intelligence at VIT Bhopal. Sir has collaborated internationally as well as nationally for research and academic purposes. He has published many journals at national as well as international level, including Scopus and SCI indexing. His area of exposure includes operating system, computer languages, web technologies, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. Thank you, sir, for coming. So one important thing, this is to inform to all the participants that the total time allotted to the speaker of a paper is 10 minutes, out of which 8 minutes will be given to the presenter for presenting, and the remaining 2 minutes shall be for questions by the chairs. So without wasting much time, I would like to call our first presenter, Mr. Sumesh Srivastava, for presenting the paper titled Regulation of Artificial Intelligence Challenges and Approaches.
All right. Thank you, Akansha, and a very good afternoon to everyone, including the honorable chairperson. So I'll just share my screen so that you can all see my presentation. Yeah, I hope everyone can see this. So I'm going to first talk about how the influence of AI has come around everywhere. Recently, I was talking to my friend who had bought a new car, and he was telling me how the gearbox in his car is also being functioning through AI, because it was an automatic car, and how it would adjust according to his driving patterns and how he drives. So it's really fascinating to me to see how AI is sort of taking over a lot of our interactions, right? It's helping us translate documents. It's telling us what to buy on Amazon. It's improving video games, predicting earthquakes, and a lot more. So the way I see it, for any new technology, the interaction with the law happens in two ways. So the first instance is when the law as it currently exists is seen as an obstacle for the development of the technology. And the demand is that the law be updated, which is what we are seeing in the case of cryptocurrency, where people are saying that the law currently is not capable of handling what cryptocurrency is. In the second situation is where there is a lack of clear rules around how a law will apply to a technology, specifically when you talk about matters of liability and regulation. And this can create an unpredictable scenario of how the technology will develop. And this is the situation that would partially apply to AI right now, where we are not very clear as to how issues of liability and regulation will be dealt with in terms of AI. Just to give you an example, why is it important to regulate technology? Because and I'm going to be taking the example of Aadhaar over here, because the Aadhaar program using biometric technology was developed and deployed without a legal regulatory framework. So the Aadhaar Act actually came into place at least 3 to 4 years after the program had already been implemented. And that led to multiple issues of who's responsible, multiple issues of regulation, multiple issues of what are the purposes for which Aadhaar can be used. So which is why it is important to have a regulatory framework in place. Coming to the next thing, I think one of the biggest challenges when you're working with AI is how do you define AI? Because AI, first of all, is not any one technology. It's a family of different technologies, and it's a challenge. So I've taken a couple of examples. There's this publication called Artificial Intelligence, a Modern Approach, where the authors have taken a very expansive approach to defining AI, where they've categorized it into 4 different heads, which is thinking rationally, acting humanly, thinking humanly, and acting rationally. And they've defined AI under the 4 different heads. If you look at the definition of the Oxford Dictionary, that definition is very utilitarian because it talks about the functions of AI. So that's obviously a very limited definition because the functions of AI are changing every day as we speak. I still, for my research, and usually when I'm thinking from the perspective of regulation, I still like to use the definition given by Turing in his paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, where he has said that a machine would appear to be intelligent if it can convince another human that they're interacting with a human and not a machine. So for my purposes, for my paper, I have defined AI as, I've taken inspiration from Turing, and I have defined AI as any technology which replicates human level intelligence while also appearing to act as a human. So as a human, if I am convinced that the technology I'm interacting with is a human, then that for me is what artificial intelligence is. Coming to the next slide. Sorry. Yeah. So I'll be talking about the challenges in regulation of AI, like what are the problems that come in. So first is basically the degree of autonomy in which AI can operate, right? AI, for any lawmaking, any policy making, what we need is predictability. Right now, our laws apply to humans because we know how humans behave and we can predict their actions. But this is not currently the case with AI, especially as AI develops, the number of tasks that it can accomplish without human control will increase. So an example of this is how AI programs play chess. And it's been happening since the last 20-25 years that AI programs have been beating the best human players in chess. And it has been said that this is because AI can understand chess moves in ways that humans cannot process, because of their higher capacity for data processing and higher capacity for decision making. Again, coming to another point which makes it difficult in terms of regulation is the lack of user control. Now, when AI may lose control, a user may lose control over its AI due to a flaw in the coding. Someone might hack the AI, or there might be a damage to the physical component. So any regulation, it must accommodate for the fact where the AI has gone beyond its programming and it is out of human control. Now, one way which has been suggested is to ensure that an AI program always functions in public interest or human benefit. But the problem is that public interest is not something which you can define in objective terms, right? It's subjective based on who you are. If you are the government, the public interest is different. If you are an NGO, public interest is different. If you're a corporate, public interest is different. So how do you, so for example, if we propose a function in AI which says minimize human suffering, but the way the human nature is, we'll always find a way to suffer even in paradise. So the optimal decision for AI might be that to terminate the human race, because if there are no humans, there are no suffering. So this is a challenge. Like, how do you safeguard against the fact that if AI goes out of user control, how does it, how can you still control it? Now, I'm going to be discussing 3 approaches to regulation of AI. The first is basically a moral and ethical framework. I mean, these are not my approaches. These are approaches which are being deployed around the world right now. The second is a legal framework, which has been suggested by Oren Etzioni. And the third is a technical framework. This is regulation by code, which has been proposed by a team at Google AI Research. So quickly, I'm going to be going over these 3 before I come to my own conclusion. So in terms of ethical framework, the first is, I mean, I'm sure everyone is familiar with this publication by Isaac Asimov, I, Robot, and some of you might have seen the movie also, which has specific laws of robotics. And this is a more approach which is based on ethics and morals. And the European Parliament in 2015 has recommended 4 guiding principles which seem to be inspired by these morals, which say that, I'm just going to go over these principles, that machines should act in the best interest of humans. Machines should not harm a human. Autonomy or to make uninformed decision about the terms of interactions with robots, and justice, which is that the benefits of robotics should be distributed in a fair manner. Now, the problem with with this sort of a framework is that ethics and morals are essentially abstract concepts. So when you're trying to regulate technology, you cannot go with abstract concepts, because then you are expecting the creator of the AI technology to interpret what is human interest, what constitutes harm, and so on. Next, I'm going to be looking at the legal regulations given by Oren Etzioni. So he has given 3 rules which he says should apply to AI. First is that an AI system must be subject to all the laws that apply to its human operator. Second is that an AI system must clearly disclose that it is not human. And third is that an AI system cannot retain confidential information without approval. So there is an interesting categorization created here, where the first rule deals with laws that are already existing and must be respected by AI. And the second and third rules are directly imposed on AI. Now, the problem again with this approach, the problem is that they equate AI with humans, which cannot work. Because let's say, as a human, when I'm working somewhere, I need to ensure that I comply with all labor laws. I need to ensure that I get a certain amount of pay or CTC or whatever. Now, if AI starts demanding the same amount of labor laws because you are saying that all human laws apply to AI, that creates a problematic situation. Secondly, in practical terms, for AI to be able to understand laws, they need to be machine readable. And currently in India, we are not in a situation where our legal text is available in a machine readable format. So that's the challenge with this approach. The last approach I'm discussing is basically a technological approach, which was discussed by a research team at Google. So what they've done is that they're not concerned with a legal framework or an ethical framework. They are just saying that what happens with AI is accidents in machine learning systems, and how do you handle those accidents that happen where AI might go beyond what it's been told to do. What they have done is that they have given certain guidelines which other technology people can take and use to come up with solutions. So this is the approach that I am least familiar with, since I'm not a technology person, and maybe the chairpersons can expound on this approach a bit more, since it would fall within their expertise. Now, in terms of what I propose in terms of AI regulation for India, so if you see our current approach is not going towards regulation right now. It's more towards policy. So we have the AI National AI Stack. Yesterday, the government has released AI for all. So it's more right now towards a policy framework. We haven't reached a place of regulation right now. And I was just going over a few current legislations where you can see the application of AI. So just 2 sections I will mention. The Motor Vehicles Amendment Act, after it was amended, inserts a new section called in section 2B, which says that in order to promote innovation, research and development in the fields of vehicular engineering, mechanically propelled vehicles and transportation in general may be allowed, which seems to be talking about autonomous vehicles. The second is, if you see the Draft Data Protection Act, it says section 26(1)(e) of the act says that data fiduciaries may use new technologies for processing data. So if you see in legislation, in some of the recent legislation, they've already been discussing and looking at the application of AI. Now, my proposal is that the first step towards regulation has to be legislation. Let's call this legislation the Artificial Intelligence in India Act, or whatever the name is. This legislation should first of all define a fundamental philosophy for AI for India. Like, what is artificial intelligence and how do you apply it in India? And it should define a vision for what is meant by to be an AI ready society for India. So, and this vision must be contextual and applicable to different actors like citizens, industry, social systems. It should define general principles for AI use, development and regulation targeted towards developers, legislators, researchers, and end users of AI. And most importantly, it should create a permanent AI regulation agency, which will, with details on its composition, mandate, powers, and functioning. I've also suggested that this agency should ideally be play a coordination and certification role, and it should be housed within the PMO so that it has all the powers and to be able to function properly for a field as influential as artificial intelligence. Uh, yeah, that's it. I'm sorry for running over my time a bit. And I'm open to questions now.
I would request the chairs, if any questions are there, they may ask.
Yes, so Mesh, can you tell me that whether the AI has been legally defined in the laws or not? Means now we are having the legal definition of AI or not?
No, ma'am, we do not, at least in terms of the laws in India, we do not have a legal definition of AI. Like we do not currently have a definition which, let's say, I can go to court and I can say this is an accepted legal definition for AI in India. Because even the two legislations that I've pointed out, they don't explicitly talk about AI as we understand AI. They are just talking about, like, for example, the Motor Vehicles Amendment Act. It talks about the possibility of mechanically propelled vehicles. And an argument can be made that an autonomous AI vehicle can maybe fall under this category, but it's not something which has been clarified. Similarly, the data protection example that I gave you, it says that data fiduciaries, as in agencies who are collecting data, may use new technologies for processing data. So this new technologies, because one of the functions of AI is the fact that it can process data at speeds and scale which it is not currently possible for to do right now. So my sense is that because these are recent legislations, the people who have drafted them have accommodated for the fact that AI might come or might be applicable in the future. But like I said, currently India is not going towards a regulatory approach. We seem to be going towards a policy first approach right now to basically have a framework in place before we get into regulation.
Shmash, may I audible?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, now the domains are very vastly. We are understanding, for example, cybersecurity and gaming and health informatics. So, how the AI will help for this, the laws, and also we can apply for this kind of projects. Already, we are taking care of a lot of projects are sanctioned by the MHRD also for the different universities also. How the AI projects will adapt for the laws?
So the issue over here, sir, is like if you see recently facial recognition technology, they've been talking about using it. The problem that I see over here, especially when we talk about cybersecurity and all that, is we need for the AI to function properly, we will need to have consistent data sets which the AI can study.
So my question is, cybersecurity also it is need legal laws also there to how to do and all the things. So how the AI laws will be interlapping with the cyber oriented projects. So now also a lot of cyber projects also taking over in India.
Yeah. So again, it comes to the question of user control. So if we, for example, recently we've seen the fact that like when the Delhi riots happened or recently when the protests happened, they've been using facial recognition technology to identify protesters, removing the need for human officers to go in and intervene. So again, till the time that we do not define the degree of user control, who is responsible if the technology makes an error in identifying a wrong person? Let's say the technology identifies me as someone who was at a protest while I was not actually there, but it identifies me because of an error in its data. Then if I am arrested by the police based on that identification, who is then liable? Because if the state makes a wrong arrest, it is liable under the law. But if there is no human agent involved over here, then who is liable for it? So I think that is a question that really needs to be settled, especially because all these technologies are being deployed. So you're very correct in saying that, because even recently the Lucknow police has talked about using facial recognition technology for the same. So it's not a question for the future. It's a question that we need to look at right now, because the technologies are being implemented. but the regulation is not there right now.
Yes, yes, that is what I actually saying. It's a nice presentation, Sumesh.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sumesh. I would like to invite the second participant, Mr. Aditya Verma, to present his paper, The Accountability and Advantage of Artificial Intelligence in the Context of Big Data.
Akanksha, I think Aditya is not here. You can call the next person.
Sure, ma'am. The next, I would like to invite Mr. Rohan Sharma and Ms. Harshita Verma for presenting their paper.
Hello. Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, sir. Thank you for inviting us. Rohan, kindly share your screen, the PPT that we have made.
I'm unable to share my screen. Host, can you please allow me to share my screen?
Please make him the co-host.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, I'm just trying. There is some glitch. I'm just trying it. So hopefully you are the co-host now.
Okay.
So this paper is the relationship between artificial intelligence, healthcare, and privacy laws in India. Artificial intelligence is being hailed not just as a transformational force, but it's also emerging as the leading solution for.
I guess someone.
I think from your side, some disturbances are, I guess.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Harshita Verma. So today's topic that I and Rohan have chosen for addressing this very crucial topic, which is artificial intelligence. And as we all know that the present world is the era of technology, where the data is being used every now and then. Every person is sitting online and using all these applications where the data of the users is being stored and is being given to the global corporates to whose applications we are using. So our today's topic is decoding artificial intelligence vis-a-vis threats in India with emphasis on data protection laws. So the main thing we will be addressing today is artificial intelligence and the threats it imposes upon the users of India with respect to the data protection laws as to what all we have. Rohan, kindly move on to the next slide. So the contents for today is going to be artificial intelligence and its relationship with law, significance of data privacy in an AI-driven world. So, and importance of AI in India, strategically imposing AI in present world, need to secure data, present laws in India for data protection, the way forward. So all of the things which leads to the threat upon the data and the privacy of the individuals is going to be addressed today in today's presentation. So artificial intelligence and its relationship with law. To satisfy the need of the present, it is pertinent to make amendments in the law. So as we know, with the passage of time, the people and there are no change with the passage of time. So it is important to make certain amendments in the law, which could be dealt earlier, and which could just simplify the life of the people living in the present. As we know that the present world is the era of technology and advancements. So it is important to secure the data of the people, which is being generated online, and so that the privacy of the people do not get hampered because of it. So it is important to make certain and useful amendments which could actually protect the data of the individuals. There are many ways which are there for it, data localization being the one, but it also comes with a lot of negative impact and a restriction. Data localization basically means putting restrictions upon the free flow of data. So free flow of data is considered as the base of the internet, and it is the essence of the internet. So it destroys it, and it destroys the way for more growth and innovation. It is a way which could be dealt and which could be used currently. Looking at the situation of India, it could be used time, but for future use, I don't think that for a longer span of time, I don't think it would be prevalent to use such methods. The only way forward is to have stricter laws, which could actually help people, to protect their data and to have an online environment which is healthy and safe for them. The second point is artificial intelligence thrives upon the user's data. Hence, it is the need of the hour to incorporate comprehensive laws which could provide a safe and healthy online environment. It is very much important, and it is the need of the hour to have such laws which could give on a better and safe environment for the people online. Artificial intelligence, when fused with legal industry, contributes to beneficial outcomes. So there are a number of beneficial outcomes which we can see when artificial intelligence is fused with legal industry, as it helps in intellectual property, electronic billing, documentation of the process documents. The documentation process is being eased when artificial intelligence is fused with legal industry. It also separates the ratio of long judgments within an hour. And we know that the technology has advanced and you just have to enter the keyword and you get the whole research work which required. So it is very much important and very much useful in the research work as well. Rohan, kindly change the slide. Significance of the data privacy in an AI-driven world. So protection of the data of the individuals is a major concern for the digitally underdeveloped country. So digitally developed countries such as Europe and USA have very much comprehensive approach towards the data protection laws. They have laws which could deal with all the matters related to the privacy of the individuals and the data being regulated and the cross-border flow of the data. Whereas if we talk about India, India is not that much developed when it comes to digital usage of all these applications and the privacy of the data. India is not that much developed, and it still requires certain amendments and laws which could deal with these situations. Although personal data protection bill is being discussed and it is there in its way to be implemented, which is highly inspired by the GDPR of the European Union, which is the step taken by the European Union to protect the data and the privacy of the individuals residing within the territories of Europe. Secondly, the concept of privacy in India was enforced in the year 2017 in a leading case of Justice case Puttaswamy versus Union of India. So in this case, the constitutionality of Aadhaar card and whether the right to privacy comes within the ambit of fundamental right was questioned. So the privacy is now entitled within the umbrella of fundamental rights, and it was mentioned in case Puttaswamy versus Union of India case. So privacy is not an issue which could be ignored at the present time, as it is the present, and it is nothing which is going to be a major concern in the future. It is to be addressed in the present time, and it is to be taken care of, since it could harm the national interest and the development of a country. So it is important to make it available, to make privacy a concept which people are actually concerned of. Currently, we all have seen that WhatsApp has changed its privacy and there are some changes to its privacy policy. So people have actually turned to new applications where their privacy cannot be hampered. So it is a concept which is now well enforced in India, and people are aware about it and they want to protect it, because it cannot be taken for granted, as it is going to hamper not only their living, but it can also hamper the national interest as a whole. Privacy is not an issue to ignore, but it is an important asset through which nations can succeed and move ahead in the direction of development. Similarly, privacy of users' data requires immediate attention like any other topic of national development and interest. So it is important to impose certain rules and regulations. Personal Data Protection Act is there. Before that, we had IT Act and SPDI rules, which were there to deal with such matters, but they were not comprehensive at all, and they were not solely dealing with these matters. Although if we talk about Europe, so the first stone of privacy and data privacy was set up in 1980s, and which is now known as Convention 108, which is a very useful method. And non-European countries can also be a part of it, but Uruguay is the only first country which is the part of it. India can be a part of that, but for that we need to make several changes upon the cross-border flow of data. So it goes against the policy of the data and the flow of data which India is using currently. Thank you. Now I would like to call Rohan Mishra, my co-author, to explain more on the data privacy and the implementation of AI in the future world.
Thank you, Ashita.
Sorry
Am I
to
audible?
interrupt you. Hello. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
The 8 minutes and 30 seconds are over, so kindly manage.
So can I?
Yes, Rohan, you may, but we need to manage it within the time.
Yes. Yes. So firstly, if we talk about the importance of AI in present world, then it has seen over the past decade that IT and IT services have shown a greater impact in, if you talk about economy and if you talk about the gigantic number of employment gigantic number of employment in India. And there are many other various sectors which have also shown the effective implementation of artificial intelligence, such as healthcare, agriculture, education, defense, and many other sectors. Though, and secondly, if you talk about the strategic implementation of artificial intelligence, so the entrepreneurship and the startup companies will play a massive role in the implementation of artificial intelligence, because startup companies adopt artificial intelligence in many various other purposes, such as marketing strategy and adopting the behavior of the consumer. So this will help the entrepreneurs on the Indian startup to think a lot about the adoption of the artificial intelligence, and to implement the artificial intelligence under the AI for All initiative. The government of India need to launch a campaign for implementing for the awareness, to bring awareness among the citizens related to the artificial intelligence. So if you talk about data, so data is now the present world is now the age of data, and data is the most essential commodity if you talk about in the present world. And in India, there is no specific and comprehensive legislation on the protection and the privacy of individual data. The Information Technology Act 2000 is the exception of it. Some sections of the ITL deals with the privacy and protection of data, such as Section 43A and Section 72A, which deals with the protection and the privacy of the individual's data. Who use the individual data in an unlawful manner should be punishable with monetary fines and with imprisonment. Section 69 is the exceptions of it. So, and the FPDI rules, which deals with the body corporate, which launched under April in 2011, which is further categorized into two parts: the personal information and the sensitive personal data information. The sensitive personal data information is further categorized into data like health records and emails, phone numbers, and many other things. Now, the way forward, and I'd like to conclude it by saying that the Data Protection Bill of 2019 is deals with the data protection of an individual in a comprehensive manner. It has been talked about. It has been talked that the data protection is much needed in the future, and there are certain amendments which are also recommended in current Data Protection Authority to be introduced for the regulation of the protection of the data. Niti Aayog has also released a policy paper called NACI, National Strategy for Artificial Intelligence, in which Niti Aayog has explained comprehensively about how the artificial intelligence should be used in future and how it should be implemented. Establishment of Airavat has been used. So the data which has been so the current future workforce should implement how should thought about how the data should be used and how to make compatible with the usage of the artificial intelligence.
We are extremely sorry for extending open for questions now.
I request the chairs, if they have any questions, they may ask.
So any artificial intelligence based law applied for any data protection in India? You know anywhere?
So could you please repeat your question? There was some problem.
Yeah, wait a minute. Do you know any data protection AI based intelligent machines or models or softwares are available in India?
So India, as we know, is currently looking at the personal data protection bill, which is the only, earlier we had IT Act 2000 and the FPDI rules which were dealing with it, but they were not comprehensive and they were not effective in nature. So having personal data protection bill which could enhance the privacy and which could enhance the safety, which could be additional security to the data of the individuals. So that is the only thing which we are looking forward. And before that, we didn't have any such thing.
And so the FPDI rules were also deals with the comprehensive data protection for body corporates.
Okay, data protection itself, it is a very difficult process for maintaining laws and all. For keeping the data is very confidential. So still we are making rules for the data protection and the policies of the companies and all. So we need a particular bot or software agent is required to say what is the policies and all we are going to maintain for developing any product in AI based. So in India, so a lot of people are developing a product like data protection, privacy preservation also. So that is why I'm asking you. So it's a nice presentation. It is, if it is, everything is okay now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. So for the next participant, I would like to inform that after the completion of 7 minutes, I'll inform so that the presenter may conclude within 1 minute. Okay. So I would like to invite next presenter, Mr. Ankit Mishra and Mr. Ganesh Nair for their paper, The Future with 5G and Virtual Borders. Are they present?
Akanksha, who is the next person?
Mr. Ankit Mishra and Mr. Ganesh Nair.
Not there, I think. He's not there. You can call the next.
Okay. Okay. So next, I would like to call Mr. Shailendra Prasad Godial and Mr. Anurag Singh for their paper titled as Implication of E-Contracts and Blockchain Technology in Legal Domain, a Critical Analysis.
Akanksha, they are also not present. You can invite Ms. Priya Singh.
Shailendra sir was here. Okay, anyways, you call Priya Singh. Meanwhile, I look for Shailendra.
Okay, so I would like to call Ms. Priya Singh for her paper titled as Artificial Intelligence and Data Analysis in Legal Spectrum.
Make her the co-host for sharing the screen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I visible and audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay. So let me just share my screen. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Priya Singh, and my topic is AI and data analytics in the legal spectrum. Now, you can find me at my email ID provided here.
Ma'am, you are not visible, means the video is very blurred due to the virtual background, I think so.
So just a minute. Can I remove the virtual background?
Yes, it's your call, ma'am.
Okay. Am I visible now?
But the light is means from the background, it's too flashy.
Can
you just?
Yes. Now am I visible?
No. Now it's better.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. The topics that I will be covering. Firstly, the introduction, its need in the legal sector, types of analytics that can be employed, data that is involved, importance, the tools that can be used, cautions, and artificial intelligence and data analytics with respect to the Indian subcontext. Now, firstly, introduction. In introduction, there are three key concepts which are majorly confused. Firstly, there is machine learning. Machine learning is basically the implementation of algorithms on a problem. Algorithm is nothing but a way to solve a problem. And in this, when data is fed to a model, the data is divided in the training data set and the testing data set. The training data set, as the name suggests, it is used for training a model. And the testing data set, as the name suggests, it is used for testing a model. So the ML model basically finds the trends and patterns in a data. Now, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a broader field and ML comes under as a part of it. And it basically aims on creating machine systems to perform tasks without human intervention. Now, next slide. Yeah. Okay, so big data. Now, big data is employed wherever we have huge amounts of data involved and wherein the data grows exponentially with time. Hence, it is required in predicting big changes and it often requires human validation. Now, its need in the legal sector. Firstly, as we further advance into the information age, data is increasing day by day. Hence, handling data is a necessity. Therefore, there are also challenging market conditions. And COVID-19 has been a major setback to many law firms. And lastly, the ever-growing market. According to a survey by Thomson Reuters, UK firms grew lawyer count by 5.8%. Now, the types of analytics that can be employed, which I have used in my study, these are predictive analysis. As the name suggests, it is used to predict an outcome. It helps the attorneys in identifying the trends and patterns involved in a case and eventually helping the client. Then there is descriptive analysis. It makes use of the already stored data and tells us what has occurred. As its name suggests, it is descriptive in nature. It only describes the situation. For example, LexisNexis. LexisNexis offers a search-based engine application for searching the related case laws. Now, then the data that is involved. See, the tools that are employed in machine learning are often rely on petabytes of information that is stored. Data is divided in training data set and the testing data set. And the more training data set that we feed to the model, the more reliable our model is. However, the data should be free from data mining bias. Now, data mining bias is basically refers to an assumption of importance a person assigns to an occurrence. For example, if an anomaly occurs in a market and a person decides to make his decision based on that anomaly, then the result is negative and hence our data should be free from such data mining bias. Secondly, its importance. Since the digitization of documents, data is available on cloud and there is instant access to it and there is no loss of data. And it offers better outcomes with analytic approach. It helps us in identifying the trends and patterns and prediction of useful procedure and previewing previous judgments. Now it offers greater efficiency. It consumes less time, less effort, and levels the competition. Now, and hence it helps in gaining more clients. Now the tools that can be employed in the legal spectrum. Firstly, there is AutoML. AutoML stands for automated machine learning. See, when we build a machine learning model, many steps are involved. Firstly, there is parameter selection, data inscription, data preprocessing, which can only be done by ML experts. However, Google has launched AutoML for making models according to one's business. Then there is decision trees and expert systems. It is used in automating the process, reasoning, and decision making. Algorithms ranging from simple decision trees to complex ones can be made, and it is used for finding repetitive trends in files for better decision making. Then there is contract analysis. Softwares like KM Standards, RAV, and LawGeeks offer a wide variety of tools for clause identification, reviewing the contract, and the management of a contract. Then there is transaction management. For adding better transparency and efficiency to the billing process, for example, for transaction of calculating the transaction of closing at the agenda, management of risk, and commenting on documents, tools such as Thomson Reuters and more are available. Then there are research tools available such as Google Scholar, SiteCheck, state court websites, Fastcase, FindLaw, ROSS. These can be used for researching, which provide search engine based application. They use AI for supporting research. They combine the use of natural language processing for search based recommendations. Now the cautions that need to be kept in mind. Firstly, the bias in data. Data should be free from data mining bias. High pricing. AI can still be expensive to some firms and it requires people with such skills. Security issues. Any data breach can lead to loss in data and hence the system should have a preventive internal firewalls and tools. Now the Indian aspect. Firstly, in a survey conducted by BML Munjal University, it was found that 42% lawyers believe that 20% of the work will be completed by AI. And Legal Cart, a Gurugram-based app, connects clients to attorneys. Now there is Spot Draft, a Bangalore-based startup that helps customers to draft, review, sign contracts, and manage it. CaseMine is an NCR-based startup used for research in the legal field. And then there is Pensieve that provides search recommendations and it helps in contract management. Now these are the references.
Sorry to interrupt you, Ms. Priya. 7 minutes are over.
Okay, my paper is over. Yeah. These are the references from where I took my study from. That was all. Thank you.
Okay, Priya, can you let me know that how this legal data is available on the, how much this legal data is available for implementing AI or something, whatever technology you are talking about.
Ma'am, how is data available?
Yeah.
Okay, so the data can be available like a contract is made, we can upload it to the cloud, and then an OCR can be done on it, and then it can be further implemented by machine learning models.
But right now, what is the condition in India? Are these data available?
These can be made sure when the data is uploaded to the cloud and it is available on the net.
So do you think the data is available, legal data is available on the net?
In some firms, not in many. It is still in the beginning phase in India.
Okay. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. So I would like to invite our next presenter, Ms. Sridevi, for her titled paper as Legal Dimension of Artificial Intelligence and Nanotechnology. Ms. Sridevi?
Akansha, I think so. Ma'am is also not here. So we can directly invite Chavi.
Oh, okay, sir. Sure, sir. So I would like to invite Ms. Chavi Thakur for her paper titled as Application of Artificial Intelligence in Bioinformatics and Drug Discovery. Ms. Chavi, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, sure.
Is my screen visible, ma'am?
No, no, Chavi.
Okay.
Chavi,
yes,
reshare your screen, please.
Okay, sir. I'm doing it.
Sir, if there is any issue, we can help you.
Actually, I am unable to share my screen.
So on your screen on the Zoom, you'll find out, icon downstairs which says share screen. And now it's visible. Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. Okay. So, good afternoon, one and all present here. I'm Chavi Thakur from JP University of Information Technology. I'm going to present about jurisprudence application of artificial intelligence in bioinformatics and drug discovery. So I would like to start about explaining about artificial intelligence in healthcare. So artificial intelligence uses personalized information and learns not just from simple but also complicated problems from the solution it creates. It is seen as machine demonstrated knowledge. This term is used when a computer exhibits human related cognitive actions such as learning or problem solving. It includes technologies such as machine learning, which is well known for learning and predicting new properties. So AI implementations are seen in relevant disciplines of healthcare like computer-aided drug design, pharmaceuticals, precision medicine, diagnostics, and electronic health records. Now, a move from discovering in marketplace throughout the drug sector has been taken by artificial intelligence. In pharmaceutical industry, it is wide-reaching potential in data analysis and growth, drug risk testing, and market research. So the use of ML software will decrease the length of time utilized analyzing knowledge, save money, and allow researchers to concentrate on other problems. So there are various applications of artificial intelligence, such as in diagnosis, the drug discovery and development, pharmaceuticals, bioinformatics, personalized treatment, and EHR and nanomedicine. So in various sectors of society, including drug development and production, regenerative medicine and pharmacy process improvements, as well as clinical testing, especially throughout the pharmaceutical sector, applications of AI has increased. So a future AI can hold the sum of all information about biology, genes, and chemical interactions in its databases. Since AI is a technology-based framework that involves numerous specialized instruments as well as platforms capable of simulating biological intellectual ability, so it manages vast quantities of the data with improved automation. So if does not at the same time attempt to fully replace human physical presence. In the pharmaceutical sector, its applications are continuously being expanded. So India is definitely set to draw more and more scientists from all over the world to undertake its clinical trial studies in India. The current intellectual laws with high ethical standards need to be updated and enforced, therefore leading India's clinical trial to the next level on the international market. So what is drug discovery? It's not everyone's cup of tea. So developing a new drug costs a very average nearly $2.6 billion and may take as long as 1.5 decades. So how can we reduce this particular time for discovering a drug? So artificial intelligence will play a crucial role in decreasing the time frame of discovering a particular drug. So artificial intelligence is showing a potential to be faster, more efficient, and find and develop new drugs. A growing number of organizations and universities are focusing on minimize the complexities involved in the classical way of drug discovery by using AI computing. So a software can generate molecular structures by combining the properties of existing drugs. So automatical chemical design helps drug discovery to jump from a low level to higher level so that we can get a conclusion with a faster and accurate manner. So this is the overall process of drug development. So we have discovery, we have non-clinical trials, then we have clinical development and the life cycle, which each stage have its own AI application. Nowadays, we can apply AI in every field of its, every step of the drug discovery. So next. Okay, so this is the statistical analysis of artificial intelligence utilization in drug discovery and development in the past few years from 2007 to 2021. So what are the benefits of AI? AI is like getting rid of data mining by humans, saving of time, as I mentioned it before. So after initial setup, expenses will be less as compared to the classical way to discover the drug. So artificial intelligence will never eradicate the jobs of scientists, unlike it may do for other industries when danger of losing jobs is blooming like anything. So this is so because the health aspect of people is associated, and therefore even on AI-enabled stuff has to be ensured and validated by scientists. Next. So this is the procedure of drug discovery. As I mentioned before, that at every stage, AI is being applied. So starting from AI in drug screening, there are many algorithms, multiple algorithms of machine learning, which are used in screening the drugs, which include nearest neighbor RF machines for intense learning, SVMs. These are the core of machine learning, which can be used. These algorithms just can be applied via computational approaches for screening the drugs. Then how can we predict? If you go on predicting the properties in laboratories, it would take a lot of time and would be a tedious process. So how can you predict the properties of a particular drug using your computer or computational service? So man-made intelligence is predicting the properties, physiochemical properties through artificial intelligence. So we can do by the same. Then we can predict its bioactivity, that is the affinity of drug, how much it can be effective, what is their activities. And then we can also on the other side predict its toxicity. A particular drug can also have its toxic effects. So to prevent toxic effect, it is essential to know the toxicity potency of any drug. So we can use like in vitro means if we do the laboratory experiments. So apart from in vitro analysis, there are some resources to support such as a LimTox and ToxFree, which decrease the cost. AI approaches search for parallels between compounds or ventures based on input characteristics of the compound's toxicity. Then, so these are some applications, pharma R&D regulated by AI. So recent research have demonstrated how a substantial amount of funding is invested by a pharmacy sector towards the research and development activities. So digital transformation has emerged as a precursor to growing productivity and efficiency of R&D and creating interest among industry leaders. In such areas such as medical imaging, including radiation treatment, the information system has been successful, which is indeed a significant move forward. So ultimately, the AI might well its find through the all over the value stream of the pharmaceuticals as well as strengthen the R&D activities. So role of AI in diagnosis, as you know, that diagnosis is again a particular main aspect of a person getting diagnosed of a particular disease. So some systems have been developed with the assistance of AI, inherent in conventional computer-aided diagnosis that simulates expert human reasoning. A doctor can only tell you that based upon your symptoms, that which problem you are suffering from. But a computer-aided diagnosis can validate the doctor's reasoning. So here, the development of AI diagnostic tools have fractured most of the major corporations. The digital developments in healthcare based on AI are highly promising to boost diagnosis speed and motivation, as well as the most suitable route for treatment. Again, it is making the diagnostics cheaper and more convenient. Then we have diagnostic applications for the same. You can diagnose of lung cancer or CT scan based rocks. Nowadays, we are having a very advanced machine for scanning the skin. Now they evaluating the probability of sudden cardiac death or other heart diseases dependent upon the electrocardiograms and cardiac MRI images. Then skin lesion recognition within skin pictures. Nowadays we are having the designs developed by artificial intelligence, which having us patches. Electronic patches. By applying those patches on your skin can tell you what type of lesion you are suffering from. Also discovering makers of diabetic retinopathy eye photos. Also, I can give you another live examples. We are having smart watches nowadays which can tell your BPM and also your heart rate. So, and also electronic diabetic machines, which can make your treatment faster and accurate. Then we have artificial intelligence is personalized treatment. Now it has made so easy for people for getting their medicines at their homes. How? By getting its personalized medicine. Personalized medicine, AI have developed a lot of advancement in personalized treatment as various patients respond to drugs in different manner. Every patient cannot respond to the drug in the same manner. But so, to get a particular drug according to their symptoms, a personalized treatment, a personalized medicine can be developed. So determining which factors can affect the option of therapy is very complicated. On the other hand, machine learning will simplify the complicated predictive work and help find the features that indicate that a patient may have a clear reaction to a given treatment. In this way, the algorithm will forecast a patient's possible response to a given procedure. Then electronic health records. Nowadays, due to corona pandemic, there would be a high record for high number of patients. According to the number of patients, there will be records. How can we store the record manually? It would be very difficult and complicated to store the data. So resolving this problem, paperwork and analysis of documents by EHR have been developed, so that there would be, we can store our information in electronic health records, which would be more accurate. And also to expedite and enhance the clinical information and retrieval of EHR data, AI applications have been developed. Health agencies within this region planning to work together along with companies to develop AI applications. So the data from community health workers, primary healthcare, diagnostic labs, all can be pharmacies, hospitals, patients, all can be saved within one record, that is electronic health record. Next is the new nanomedicine, which can be developed using artificial intelligence. Nanomedicine and diagnostic drugs therapy control complex disorders, for example, human immunodeficiency virus, cancer, asthma, and other diseases. So nanoparticle distribution of change medications have become reality in recent years. So AI will provide solutions to many problems relevant to the advancement in the formulation of essential medicines. Then this is the overall segments where AI is being used. Drug making, patient, radiology, all are interconnected with each other where AI can be applied. Then we have artificial intelligence in bioinformatics. Bioinformatics is growing nowadays at a faster rate. So bioinformatics with AI includes both basic and clinical research using biological sequence matching, interactions between protein and function structure analysis. So this approach empowers in the design and discovery of medicines as well as complex structures. Latest developments in the fields of bioinformatics and ML offers numerous possibilities in genetics, cell biology, cancer research, and personalized medicine. So AI regulate other applications of bioinformatics, like you can predict the structure of a protein, say corona. You can predict the structure of the corona by getting its sequence through bioinformatics tools, then can work on its drug design using the computational aided drug design tools. Then we have, again, the summary, the EHRs, artificial intelligence used in various segments such as robotic surgeries can be performed, clinical decision systems, and etc. services. So what is the law involved in the regulation of artificial intelligence? Here, when you do clinical trials, it is not another important aspect of getting the clinical trials done. So human-based clinical trials in drug research is considered to be an important part of the drug research and development. So the highest court in India has issued the government guidelines to tighten the norms and regulations for the conduction of new drug clinical trials. So the government has to be implemented several reforms to the clinical trial, and various other regulations are being updated to ensure the trials are carried out in the safest way in this regard. So the government of India has taken significant measures to ensure the straight, trail, involvement, and it now mandatory to register all clinical trials with the Clinical Trial Registry of India, that is CTRI, for the production of new medical molecules in the world. Clinical drug trials are utmost importance aspect, and India has the capacity and a caliber for the drug discovery and study. So these are the phases of clinical trials: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Nowadays, since the corona pandemic, again I am mentioning, it is being depicted that for a drug, first you have to be first try on animals, then pre-human trials. So for every trial, the laws are regulated, because you have to inform the person who is going to be tried upon. So phase 1 includes the preliminary review of the efficacy of drugs in stable volunteers. Stable volunteers, you have to take the perfect consent of the individual who is on who you are going to apply the clinical trial. So first, an application to be submitted to the DCGI requesting approval to produce prosecution batches of the dosage form about which amount of dosage is to be delivered to a particular person. Upon receiving such permission, 5 such batches of drugs are produced, and these batches are classified on the basis of physiochemical as well as psychophysiological as well as contaminants properties. Then next we have to do animal trials, preclinical research. Preclinical research are aimed to determine before the start of...
Sorry to interrupt you, Chavi. You have to conclude now.
Okay, so this is the, you have to file an appropriate application to the submit to the Institutional Animal Ethics Committee. You have to follow the ethical norms before conducting trials on animals. Then we have human trials. Again, you have to take a particular consent. A proper regulation has to be done before applying the clinical trials on humans. Then conclusion: in the wake of digitalization, AI has taken a big step in pharmaceutical industries in every aspect, as I mentioned before, that is research and development, drug discovery, clinical trials, and analyzing the market trends through analytics. So this won't not only increase the accuracy of production process, but also be very efficient in producing mass products. Along with the relevance of automation, inclusion of AI in the manufacture of pharmaceutical products, personalized medicine with a dosage desired, that is how much dosage you desire, it is possible to produce release parameters and other necessary components. So, as the world's second largest populated country, India can contribute positively to the global program from medical research and drug development. It has been seen a dramatic rise in the number of clinical trials in the last few years. There's a need and proper system to govern clinical trials. India will be sure to develop the best as a global favorite destination for clinical research in the near future with experienced clinical professionals and technical advances. Thank you.
Thank you, Chavi. I would like the judges to ask questions, if any.
1 second.
It's a nice presentation. It has covered most of the areas in healthcare. It is a lengthy one also. I think the prediction of the patients and all discussed in the presentation, and how the analytics is a main role in the healthcare industry.
Yes, sir.
How analytics
in the
the main role in the healthcare industries, healthcare systems.
Okay, you can analyze the we are having new tools, automation tools, such as for example, if I give you the example, Nirmai tool. There is a Nirmai tool which is used to detect the early symptoms of cancer. Also, we have automated new tools like 10-3T. It is being developed, which is a portable.
That is an AI-based tool, ma? That is an AI-based tool.
Yes, these are the AI-assisted tools developed. I have researched about these.
How the way AI is interacting to the tool for healthcare.
Okay, AI Yes, sir. AI is being applied to form the to build the framework. Actually, the framework of the tool. A tool can be built through obviously computer-aided approaches, which involve AI. AI algorithms such as k-nearest neighbors. Many algorithms have been applied to build such tools so that you can make the machine work more faster and accurate. And also these machines, like I was giving you an example of 10-3T, it is a portable patch which can be applied by heart patients so to detect their strokes. And also I would like to give an example of a chatbot, as 1.5 million people are suffering from depression according to WHO data we have been analyzed. So their AI have developed chatbots tools. Sir, chatbots tool have been developed using artificial intelligence, which do counseling and also preserve their confidentiality of the data shared by the patient.
Okay, ma. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chavi. Thank you, sir. So I would like to invite our next presenter, Ms. Shobhinita Acharjee, to present her paper titled as Artificial Intelligence and Cloud Computing Redefining Challenges in IP Protection and Forwarding Ways to Overcome its New Challenges.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
I would like to share the screen. So if it is okay. It has been disabled.
Chavi, requesting you to stop sharing your screen so that ma'am can share her screen. Ma'am, are you able to answer?
Yeah. Is the slides visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. A very good afternoon, dear concerned judges. And today here I am to present my paper on artificial intelligence and cloud computing, redefining challenges in IP protections and forwarding ways to overcome its new challenges. Now, before beginning, I would like to discuss on the certain topics, that is the AI intelligence. What is the artificial intelligence? Specifically, how is AI and cybersecurity is in relations with each other? Of course, on that parameter, I would be discussing the cloud computing, the IPR infringements, which issues related to clouds, the solutions, and of course, the conclusions. To begin with, if I, just 1 second here. Is it visible, the slide?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much. If we begin, since epoch, humans have always tried to create accessibility, kindling either a fire or development of voice recognition in smartphones. And in the bid to develop a convenience, we are now outdone ourselves, and here we are constantly tried and developing a substitution to human brains, and thereby that's become the development of or creation of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, which was formally coined by Mr. John McCarthy in 1956, have gained momentum globally in today's progressive tech-savvy world, especially in IPR regime and cyber world. But before I divulge into the IPR infringements and cloud computing, I need to take your time to understand or to make understand how AI and cybersecurity and how cloud computing is being involved. Okay. If I talk about the concept of AI, relations of AI and cybersecurity, where in one hand we are seeing that artificial intelligence is playing a constructive role in cybersecurity, thereby the expert is using their technology to analyze, research, and realize the core of cybercrimes, applying own mechanical relations, applying the own mechanical rationality to action. AI can be identified in context of various types of vulnerabilities and possibility of occurrence of similar events even in future. Thereby, AI can apply security strategies to increase the strongholds in other other networks as well. But how is this cybersecurity is working and how this AI is getting involved? And in order to understand furthermore, we need to understand the AAA of cybersecurity, that is automation, analytics, and AI. It is an advanced cut-edge techniques which goes beyond the traditional rule-based algorithm to devise such a system that learns, predicts, axiomatizes, and conduct the function autonomously, turning the already smart machines even more intelligent, sometimes even going against the parameters of which human brains can't even reach. And thus, it is, in one word I can say, it is a mixed with mathematics machine, which learns and interprets the past vectors also. But however, AI augmentations of cybersecurity systems comes with one own flaws. And because of this mercurial response to both the protection, and this might be in a basic problem. And to overcome this particular pertinent problem of security, privacy, thus comes here the development of cloud computing. Now, if we need to understand what is cloud computing is basically a form of internet, but in a virtual mode. Now, the term cloud computing unfortunately has no universal definition, but each person or each scholars have tried to give their own definition. But in simple language, if I want to depict, it is simply a delivery of computing services through a medium of internet. And thereby, in simple language, I can say where a person can store its own devices and you are the only owner who can take out or you can access that the items or the data which you have stored. Thereby, you are getting with the help of your personal user ID and a password. Western countries are considered it as a renaissance period while developing this concept of cloud computations, and thereby they have, with due time, they have covered a lot of dimensions regarding the application of cloud computing. But if I'm comparing the Western civilization with that of India, unfortunately, we have no definite legislation on data protection, yet we are on the verge of getting that. But in present time, the IT Act 2000 has amended, thereby inserting section 43A and 72A, which provides a right to compensation for unauthorized disclosure of personal information. Currently, India, if I talk about utilization of AI, it is just on the mode of unique identification, या फिर biometric unique identification number, primarily known as the Aadhaar card. And by the Aadhaar Act 2016, government has the only that AI mode, the AI technology has been implemented through this Aadhaar Act or through the Aadhaar OPM mode of AI, through which government can access the personal information of all citizens. But now the main question which persists, how far India is well protected in covering securities or in protecting the data in cyber world.
Sorry, Shunwata ma'am, sorry to interrupt, ma'am. Can you share your PPTs on full screen, please?
Yeah, sure. Just 1 second, please. Is it okay now?
Ma'am, from the basement, there is a icon over there. You can share it on projector mode. Means just by this side. No, on your right side. Ma'am, जहाँ पे वो signs बने हुए ना, zoom in and zoom out के.
हाँ.
उसकी just yeah, this one.
अब ठीक है?
Okay.
अब ठीक है? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Just 1 second. I just need you some time, please. Okay. So thereby, that is the main concern, which if I'm talking about India. Now, in the next important, once we are done with this cloud computing, another more important reason, another more important concern that influctuates is the IPR infringement with the cloud computing. Now, in IPR, we have the primary three concern, that is the primary three bodies, that is the trademark or copyright or even the patent. Now, under the trademark concern, if I'm talking about the IP infringement relating to cloud computing, we need to understand one thing: neither AI nor cloud computing is a national structure. It is something which goes beyond the national borders, and thereby that becomes a pertinent problem. Please, in this regard, I need to clarify that unfortunately, even AI or any machine-related development has yet not been given any kind of recognition indirectly in Indian parameter as well. Now, under this trademark infringement, if I talk about, for example, if I talk about a sign posted in the cloud is visible worldwide, and even in a country in which it is not intended to be used in. So while deciding the trademark dispute, the court needs to keep in mind the jurisdiction exercise, and it does not encroach upon, and it should not encroach upon the sovereignty of another country. Secondly, on this parameter, if I talk about the copyright infringement. Now, copyright specifically deals with the creation or any form of art. But the main problem is different copyrights. Now, over the country, all the countries have different copyright laws. And while, for example, if Indian copyright works after gives protection for 6 years, US protection gives for the 70 years. And the main dilemma happens here, while if files are being saved on a cloud server, it becomes difficult for a person in relating to the licensing or to copy it, and to what extent can it be required, or how much is permissible for a license. So basically, the licensor usually are in dilemma relating to the parity of law, parity of copyright legislations that is working all over the globalized sector. Furthermore, if I talk about the patent infringement, patent also suffers somewhat in this manner. Now, cloud computing system usually talks about, has several components which are operated by different party or from different places, even from different countries. Now, here the external engineers from the user's end to detect the infringement becomes a difficult connotation. So the technical setup of a service provider is usually not accessible to the public, which does not allow them to disclose the patent infringement. Coming to this particular pertinent problem is my solution, which I feel that can be a pertinent recommendation to sort out, to devote, to retain the capacity, or to be more developed, specifically in this new developing cloud computing zone in vis-a-vis with AI. For example, where we can enable both the provider and tenant to monitor the components in the cloud. Providers should also uphold the consumer sites access decision. Consumer should also retain some decision-making power. So be it the consumer, be it the service providers, be it anyone who is accessing the cloud computing must know what I am storing and how far my privacy is protected. Second, and the most important, is that mechanism must be there to enable consumer to act on attacks, specifically if any of his items or folders or any of his component is on hack based. So these are the several kind of pertinent solutions. I feel that it should be imposed, or a certain kind of leverage should be given while developing or while creating a development. And lastly, if I try to conclude, it's just in one say that cloud computing is one of the reinvention, development, and which can help diffusers and providers in controlling the privacy. But the main problem is with the legislation, wherein I have told, in my previous presentation, I have told where the Western countries have developed a lot in protecting. But the question comes, how far is India is there in developing or in creating, or how far we are, in which position we are in controlling our own documents, specifically in cyber world. Yes, we do have privacy. Yes, we do have privacy laws. But the question that remains, are we privately protected? Our privacy is well protected in cyber zone? It is high time that the government should ponder on this regard, and the data protection bill, which is yet to get passed, should be implemented as soon as possible, so that the tech savvy world, so the cyber world can be well protected from the user's point of view. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to request the chair if they have any questions.
Yeah, please. Any questions? Am I audible?
So what do you think, how much time India will take to develop this, overcome these challenges? Or
Thank you so much, ma'am. Firstly, we need to understand, ma'am, we are on the verge of creating, we are on the verge of creating data protection bill. Now, it is not yet being accorded to an act. The problem is that this is the first initial things which we need to, the government should initiate first, and I'm expecting and I hope that by the end of 2021 century, since we have overcome a race of COVID, we will I'm sure that government will also take into control of this pertinent problem. It looks very small, but unfortunately it is one of the pertinent problem, and the major of the cyber security, cyber crimes that takes place, it just because we lack laws specifically in relation to artificial intelligence or on the data protection bills, and of course the infringement clashes. So I believe it is something which I'm believing that by the end of 2021, maybe we get a data protection act which can cover the maximum security concern of the public.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to invite the chairs for their concluding remarks on this session.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, all the sessions are very nice, and they are presenting their what actually required in India for artificial intelligence and ML way. And this is a trending domains in everywhere. Now, all the institutes, they started artificial intelligence as a main course, as well as they are framing a lot of diploma courses also for everywhere, not only for engineering domain. Everywhere they are applying for AI as a main field of application, and also they need to understand how we are going to implement these techniques for the future ready professionals. And everybody, the students will be need to know. So how we are to understand about this kind of trending changes in education sector and industry and most of the finance and manufacturing fields. So they need to adapt to understand these technologies as well. As a law also, it is most important to how to do then, what is the rules and violations and everything the engineers should know. So this is what actually, this is a very nice conference. Then I see a lot of papers. They are understanding about big data analytics and cloud computing and all. They are talking about AI-based way, how AI will work and evolve in overall world. So everything is very nice. So, and thank you for the organizer giving me an opportunity for giving my comments for this conference. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, Divya Mishra, ma'am, you may continue.
Yes. As we all know that artificial intelligence and these technologies are one side of the life that always, just a second, I think there is some, yeah. One side of the life that always interests and surprise us with a new idea, topics, innovations, and products. So this conference gave a very good platform to all the researchers that are working in this field AI and implementation of AI in law and in legal aspects. It is also going to help India while understanding major challenges that we are facing while developing the policies and all that. So I think this is a very good platform, and all the papers, all the research, all the researchers who have presented their work were very well prepared and very well presented. So it's a nice work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I, on behalf of National Law Conference team of DME and entire fraternity of the college, extend a very warm vote of thanks to the chairs, Dr. Divya Mishra and Dr. S. Soundararajan, who spared time from their very busy schedule for chairing this session. Thank you so much. Further, I would like to thank all the presenters for gracing your crucial work and sharing with us your views and opinion. Thank you so much. We can conclude this session.
Thank you, Divya Mishra ma'am and sir, for coming to our session and spending your valuable time here. Hope to see you again in the college for other programs also.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Akanksha, just attendance, if anyone has not signed the attendance form.